Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. It's Thursday today, and if some of you noticed a little earlier, some of you were here, I'm kind of doing a double header today. I had a bit of a disaster yesterday on my technique, and the technique didn't work at all. I was doing the bubble technique. I couldn't quite figure out what I was doing. I didn't have anything else prepared. And so I kind of ended the video and I said I would jump on and do a live today, showing the bubble technique. So I figured it out. I learned lots yesterday of what not to do. And so today I earlier jumped on and shared a card using the bubble technique that actually worked. So check that out. It was done earlier this morning. But today is my normal kind of mystery challenge day at 2 o'clock Pacific. So I'm here today and I shared the challenge earlier. It is a color challenge using soft sea foam, smoky slate, and balmy blue. Really pretty color combination. I'm going to do a little bit different today. I'm using textured florals, which is a bundle. I'm only using the stamp set, but there's a bundle in the annual catalog. And I am going to just use the stamp set. I'm going to do some masking and create a card using those colors. So you don't see too many blue flowers around, but occasionally you'll see a blue flower. And so that's what I'm going to do in my color combination. So maybe I'll use a gray flower or the smoky slate flower. We'll see how it goes when I start to create. All right, I'm going to switch over and we'll get started. All right, so this was a challenge I posted earlier. So we're going to use soft sea foam, smoky slate, and balmy blue to create a card. Very subtle, really pretty color combination. So I've got my 3 ink pads because of course that's what I'm going to need to create some. I'm going to create some designer series paper. Like I said, I'm not using the dies that come with the textured floral, which is here. So this is the textured floral stamp set. It's 2-step stamping. These images are actually quite a bit smaller than they are. They're 80%. So the stamped images, this is one I've already stamped on some masking paper. And so it's quite a bit bigger than what they are. And so it's 2-step stamping. Got some pretty flowers, some stems that you can attach flowers to. The dies will of course cut out lots of these, but we're not using those today. Some really pretty sentiments. I love the fonts. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And here's my supplies. So I've got a piece, we'll start with this. I've got a piece of balmy blue cardstock. And it's cut 4 1/4 by 11, and we'll score it at 5 1/2. And as always, get my bone folder. We'll fold into the mountain or the raised line. So just gives you just a nice burnish on your card base. So that's my card base. I have a smoky slate layer that is cut. Isn't that a pretty color combination? Balmy blue and smoky slate. So that's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And then I've got a piece of soft sea foam that is 3 3/4 by 5, and then I cut a piece of basic white that is 3 inches square. So that's kind of the layout of my card. Like I said, we're going to do a little bit of masking. That's for the inside of the card, 4 inches by 5 1/4. So we'll work on these 2 layers first and do, well, and I'll grab the inside of the card because we're going to do some stamping. So I like when I have a plain piece of cardstock that is going to be kind of front and center. Sometimes I will do some embossing, and sometimes I will do some random stamping, kind of tone on tone. So there is a really pretty stamp that is just kind of splatters. So that's what I'm going to do. So we're going to do some splattering. You don't have to worry too much at the top because this piece is going to cover it. So I'm just really creating frame. But I am going to kind of do some more to the middle. You could use Versamark to do this tone on tone. So stamping with Versamark on a cardstock will give you this same effect. And that means you don't have to necessarily have all of the colors. You can use the Versamark to make it look like you have, in this case, smoky or soft seafoam. All right, so I've got a little bit of stamping done there. Now let's start this. So I said I was going to do some masking with this. I'm going to use this big flower, which I've got here, and I want to put some leaves behind it. The leaves aren't, the stamp doesn't actually work to completely, to go behind the leaves or to go behind the flower. So I'm going to mask this. But when you do masking, you always want to start with your focal image. So what is that image that is going to appear like it's on top? So we're going to stamp a blue flower. And so, like I said, maybe there's not all that blue. I'm going to just see how dark that is. Maybe I'm going to just soften it up by stamping off just slightly. So it's just kind of, we'll stamp in the middle, just a little softer. Now I went ahead and stamped in smoky slate on a piece of masking paper. So if you haven't seen this, this is masking paper. And when you want to use masking paper, I did not use the dies because the dies leave kind of a white edge around it, and you want to cut your masking paper as close to the edge, if not over the, like, cut a little bit of the color off, because if you don't, you can end up with a bit of a halo effect with it, and it will look like whatever you're stamping behind it isn't butted right up against it. Now, this is really sticky, this masking paper. So I take and just rub it on my shirt or my arm, and that just takes some of that stickiness away. And also, you're not adhering this, so you don't have to press really hard. Don't think you have to press that in, because it may tear when you go to get it off. It may tear your basic white. So now I've got this smaller of, well, it's the one, there are two leaves. One's kind of underneath it and one's kind of, standard leaves. So I'm just going to take, and now when I stamp, I'm stamping right over part of that image, because it will look now like those leaves are underneath or behind your flower. Now I'm going to take my, actually I should have cleaned that off. All right, we're going to take the splatters, and I am going to stamp off because I just want a little bit of splatter on my card. Just a little bit on there. Okay, so that's easy way. Now gently, but because I rubbed this or put it onto my shirt, it took the stickiness away, so I don't have to worry too much. But you can see, hopefully, now that the leaves look like they are behind my flower. Nice way to do that. And then this is going to go on like this. But we want to do, what else do we want to do on this? I do want a sentiment. And I do want some embellishments. What else was I going to do? Okay, so the sentiment I pulled out was this birthday blooms for you. So I'm going to stamp it, I think, in Balmy Blue. And I've got just a scrap of basic white. And if you follow me, you know that I like to fussy cut my sentiments. I was going to punch this out, but I think if I punch it out in the circle punch that I grabbed, it's going to cover up my flower, and I don't want that. So while we've got our ink pads out, let's stamp the flower on the inside of the card. Again, I'm going to stamp off, and I'm going to just stamp the flower. Oh, I know what I was going to do. Okay, there is another stamp for you to stamp the centers of the flowers. So it is this one right here. So we're going to use it. I'm going to stamp the center of the flowers in smoky slate, and just not sure there's a right place for that. So just like that. And on the same, I'm going to stamp this one off just because my whole image is kind of stamped off like that. So it's just got just barely see the centers of that. Okay, let's close up my ink pads. All right, I am going to put some twine. So I've got some glue. You can use whatever glue is your favorite, but I like to liquid glue. You don't need a ton. I'm trying to keep it a pretty thin line. I find people put too much glue and then it splodges out. So you want a fairly thin line and only get within like 1/4 of an inch of the edge. Don't get too close to the edge. Otherwise, the glue will splodge out. It's not a great word, splodge. I don't know if it's a real word, but it's my word for when the glue comes out. Okay. Now I'm going to pop that up using some dimensionals, but before I do, I've got some, this is the Baker's Twine Essentials. It comes, I think there's 5 different colors, including Smoky Slate. So I am going to wrap this around. I want to tie my bow here on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to make sure I have enough to tie a bow. We'll wrap this around a few times. And I definitely left enough. Okay, so we're going to kind of keep that there in a position where it is. So mine's going around the entire card base. If you don't want to put it around the entire card base, just put it around the Smoky Slate and soft sea foam before you actually adhere it on. I always turn my card upside down so that I can kind of keep track of where those tails are going. And can control that they're always kind of pointing down towards the bottom of the card. I find that if I don't do this, my tails are going in every which direction. Okay, so just get your loops the way you want them. Like that. And if you want to, I'm going to just make that just a little bit smaller. There we go. If you want to, you can add a glue dot underneath that that bow, just to kind of keep it in place like that. Okay, so that's our twine, and then I am going to use some dimensionals on to pop up this layer. So these are great cards, these layouts, and I haven't used die cuts, I haven't used embossing folders. They're great cards if you don't have all of the supplies. You can make beautiful cards even if you don't have the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and all the tools at this point in time. These cards are really easy to make, and they're really just as beautiful as all the layers. And if you want to, I didn't on this one, you could do some fussy cutting if you're into that. But just stamping. So ink, paper, and stamps is a really fun thing to do. And if you're an avid crafter like I am, challenge yourself, because sometimes this can be hard to do clean and simple, or to do casual cards when you're used to having all of the die cuts. Now I am going to fussy cut my sentiment. I'm just kind of following around, steering with the hand that's holding the paper, just following, and I'm not worrying if I'm close in some places and further away in others. I'm just kind of following the letters around. If you don't like to fussy cut, then grab a die, or if you have it. In this case, I was challenging myself not to use dies, or a punch, and punch out your sentiment, or just cut a rectangle or a square for your sentiment. There we go. I'm going to pop that up. Everybody's quiet today. If you're on watching, tell me where you're from. And yeah, and don't forget, if you're watching through YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you get notified. I'm going to put some mini dimensionals because this is going over top of my twine. I want to make sure it doesn't kind of wobble, and I'm afraid that if I don't put some mini dimensionals or on the top and bottom, it's going to kind of wobble. So there we go. There we go. Now, what did I grab? Oh, I've got some. These are pastel adhesive backed sequins, and they come in pink, blue, and gold. So I'm going to use the blue ones because they coordinate with my balmy blue. So we'll just take. They come in 2 sizes, so we'll use 2 of the big ones and 1 of the little ones. Isn't that pretty? Love this color combination. And then the last thing to do is to put your inside of your card in. And I just realized that is not very straight. Let's see if I can fix that. At least it doesn't. Well, maybe it is. Maybe not. I don't think I'm going to try and take that off, but you'll do better than I did. So there we go. There is my card using soft sea foam, balmy blue, and smoky slate as the color combination. I like how it turned out. Masking is a fun technique to do because you can get some really, really lovely, I don't know, it kind of tricks your mind to figure out how it was done, but masking paper makes it possible. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me today. And if you joined me earlier today as well, thank you for joining me for both of my lives today. Now, I will be back live on Saturday at 11. It is on stage. So it's Stampin' Up! Convention or conference, virtual conference on Saturday. So I'm going to take a little break from it and come join you live on Saturday at 11 o'clock Pacific. So hopefully you'll join me then. I'll also be live at 12 noon on Saturday or Sunday. Sorry. Okay, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Hope you have a great day. Happy stamping. Bye.